Kids today have no self-confidence. They're a little entitled, but they have no self-confidence.
So just wanted to get you on and talk about, I mean, I have a template here, but
Yeah.
maybe talk a little bit about, I'll tell you why, but first of all, I'm fascinated about sports, coaching, your work with kids. I know you're a father. You have 4 children, correct?
Yep.
Is it all boys, 2 boys, 2
Three,
girls?
three girls, 1 boy. So a set of twin girls in there too.
Wow.
All 3 girls playing college sports right now.
Oh, wow. Oh,
And didn't start till late either. Like we held them out.
when you say late, what age is that?
So we really didn't start their main sports till like middle school.
And that's 12 or 13?
Yeah, like sixth grade. You know, I would say anywhere between 10 to 12 years old is the right age, depending on just maturity of the kid.
And why do you say that? Is it because of burnout? Like, you know, I see those stats, like the kid that's playing in the Little League World Series will not be playing in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, no one's going to be playing in Major League Baseball. It's like winning the lottery.
Right.
For me, it's not just, you know, it wasn't just where this could end for them, but it's just the learning that needs to take place on the journey. And so, you know, listen, like take my son for an example. He's the son of a former Division I wrestling coach who has access to everything. If he starts at 6 years old, he's going to be really good. Not because he works hard or because he's some prodigy, because his environment is going to set him up to be very successful without him making really a personal investment. Well, what happens is that becomes a false sense of security. And so I believe when you start a kid a little bit later, and listen, that can backfire too. There is a struggle that takes place internally that they have to process and work through that actually catapults them later. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, again, I tell people all the time, you know, that people would say to me, "Oh, you're starting your kids too late. They're not going to make it, you know, to the next level." And I'm like, first of all, statistically, none of our kids are making it. I mean, I'm a 5'10", normal-looking dude. I was a wrestler, not even an athlete. So, like, statistically speaking, they're not going to make it. So I'm going to roll the dice toward the area that I think is healthiest for my kids, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And if it works out, it works out. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, you know, it's irrelevant. I hope they're incredible people.
Yeah. I played a little bit of sports, and I'll tell you that everyone will ask me, "Hey, is your son gonna play this sport or that sport?" And I always say, you know, I want him to try them, but if he doesn't want to, I don't know if I will force him to fulfill his commitments, but I'm not going to force him to play a sport because I don't think that's great. I want him to be, as you said, I want him to try hard, give great effort, but I just really pray he's a great human.
Yeah. Well, so let's, and I hope we're just going here, but you know, I hear a lot of people say that, you know, a parent will say, you know, and I have a little different philosophy here. So they'll say like, "Hey, I'm going to force my kid to fulfill their commitment." I agree at a certain age.
Okay.
But at 7 years old, that kid didn't make that commitment. You did as a parent. And so here's what I said. Our kids, listen, our daughter played softball one year. It was terrible, man. It was awful. And so about halfway through the season, I just emailed the coach and said, "Hey, we're bowing out, man. We're not going to finish the season."
Okay.
I didn't tell my daughter we quit. I just told her we were going to go try something different.
Okay.
It's freaking 9-year-old softball, and it was a waste of time. Okay. A total waste of our family's time. And so, like, it's not like I was teaching some sort of, like, commitment and resilience to my 9-year-old daughter. Like, she didn't give a crap either way. Like, so I do think we have to be careful of and it's where we've gone wrong in America with sport. There's no longer sport sampling. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so when you sample a sport, hey man, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks long. Like the commitment level is going to be minimal at best. You try it, it's over. Okay, maybe we go back, maybe we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, if you sign up for 8-year-old baseball, dude, it's all gas, no brakes. And it's ignorant. And that's why we never did it. I'm like, if I can accomplish at home the same skills that you're going to accomplish it with my kid, and you're going to pay me money and require a big time then we're just going to do it at home, you know.
Yeah.
Now some kids need socialization. My kids didn't. We were very social in other areas of our life, but and I normally think that's an excuse for most people. Oh, we go hard because they need the socialization. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I could find a cheaper way to socialize. You know?
Yeah, I think about, and there's a lot in there. I would say, like, I just promise you, my son does not need more social, you know.
No. Yeah.
He's the
Yeah.
most social person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's going to be good, but I think anyway, we'll see. But you know, it's interesting because you're a father. I want to talk about software. I want to talk about your program and coaching. As I said before, Randy said it's incredible. I just want to go watch.
Yeah.
But you were a wrestler of the year at the collegiate level. You were also coach of the year at the collegiate level. You have a lot of experience. So to hear these things from you, it's actually refreshing and it's a wonderful perspective. But I guess I want to hear more about your approach with, if you're open to it, your kids and because I do see the upside. I do see the upside of starting young. But I'll give you a scenario. I want my son to take jiu-jitsu because I'm in Miami. Jiu-jitsu's everything. You got to take jiu-jitsu. You got to take jiu-jitsu. And by the way, if we were there, he'd be doing your program.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
But you know, if I'm thinking, you know, when you go there, I think you got to go 2-3 days a week minimum. And then we all know when that takes place, which is after the workday, so parents can get him there. And then that means he's not going to be able to do anything else. So I'm just trying to figure out how, not to win, but to optimize things so he can try things.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think you have to. So what we did is we road mapped out a progression. All right. And we did that before we were in the fire. Because here is what listen, there is not many, there are some. No parent is out there going, hey man, I'm gonna make a terrible decision for my kid. I'm going to do this and I hope they're burnt out at 13. No one is starting with that framework in mind.
Right.
Okay. So I don't believe parents get a lot of bad rap today. Like, I don't think they deserve it. I think we're all trying. It's freaking hard. I think coaching is hard. And I think, hey, instead of us bashing each other, why don't we work together? Because our kids are probably worth it. And they have a lot better chance if we're aligned in this mission. We don't have to agree on everything, but we do need to be aligned. And so I think you have to, from the beginning, just create some boundaries that are healthy for your family. Listen, some families can do more simply because of financial, privilege. Some families can do more because maybe you work from home. Some families can do more because the Little League field is across the street from your house.
Yeah.
I always use this illustration, Mark. If you were to go on your phone and you were to pick that you were going somewhere, okay? Normally Siri will give you, or Google Maps, whatever, it'll give you like 4 different paths. Here's what's crazy. They're normally all within about 45 minutes of each other.
Oh, yeah.
Distance-wise.
Yeah.
When you think about parenting on this sport journey, here's what I think sometimes we fall prey to. And I say it a lot. Parents, a lot of coaches will say parents are the predator. I often say they're the prey, because we prey on them and we say, oh, your kid's got to do this. They're going to be great. You got to do this. And then the parent does it. The experience stinks and they go crazy. And it's like, okay, well, who created this issue?
Yeah.
And so when you look at those paths, listen, there's not one that's perfect. Just pick your route and commit to it. So we picked a route of starting our kids later. And my philosophy is this: if you're going to start early, then squeeze lightly. And so your kid needs like socialization. You love Little League baseball. I don't know why anyone would. But like if you love T-ball and like watching your kids stand there and like look around for an hour in the blazing sun, hey, that's your prerogative. But you better squeeze lightly.
Okay.
Our philosophy was this: let's create the attributes that matter from 6 to like 10 years old. And then when we start sport, we will squeeze a little more intensely because they're at an age where they can cognitively and physically handle it, because that's what sport requires. And so sometimes I think we just set kids up, for failure early, because it's like, that's not listen, the only reason you're good is because you're 7 months older than all the other 6-year-olds.
Yes.
Well, that's
Yes.
just false reality.
Yes.
And so I wanted to throw my kids in, and then like my son, Randy can tell you, he's on our team there. And like he started wrestling the end of his 5th grade year, got the crap kicked out of him some. I loved it. Now I could have gone the other way. Let's start early, be the 5th grade phenom, and like you can become an entitled little brat because you didn't earn any of it. Your dad just put you in the right positions. I wanted him to experience some struggle at an age where he had to process it. And so when he was getting whipped, he had to decide, do I want to get good or not?
Mm-hmm.
Do I enjoy this or am I okay with this? And he's had to make decisions, even currently, right now, he's going into high school, like, hey man, do I want to get strong or not? Well, guess what? It ain't up to me. It's up to him.
Okay. Okay. I mean,
And I could go on forever, so you're going to have to
oh,
stop.
no, listen, this is what it's all about. I mean, you've given me golden nuggets in the first 5 minutes, so thank you. When you said we didn't start our kids till late, my initial thought was, okay, what were they doing until you started them late? Like, what type of things are they doing? Like, I know there's a lot of developmental things kids can do. I think, if I'm being transparent, like what people forget, there are a lot of developmental things outside of sports. It's like sports,
Oh,
sports,
yeah.
sports. And that's because people are watching ESPN. Otani gets paid $800 million. Messi, that's my kid. He's going to do that. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
do you understand the stats behind that? As you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, that's not
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
So,
Those people are unicorns.
yeah.
You know what I mean? They're unicorns. All right. So you ask about what can they do outside of, if they're not doing organized sport. And
Well,
what we've done.
I'm sorry, you kept your kids out intentionally by design, which I think is a great perspective. It's
Oh,
unique. But what were they doing? Like, just by knowing a little bit about you from Randy, I'm imagining they weren't sitting around doing nothing. So what
oh
were
man.
they doing?
So a couple of things. One, they were doing stuff, but it was only sports sampling. Dude,
Okay.
they all did gymnastics. Listen, every one of my kids can do a back tuck, and they've never taken more than like 6, 7 weeks of gymnastics. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I bought them a cheap mat off of Facebook Marketplace, like one of those little accordion ones, like you used to have in
Yeah.
elementary school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, they're out there on YouTube teaching each other. We have YouTube videos of my daughter busting her nose trying to do a back tuck out by herself in the yard. And here is why kids playing on their own is important. Because here's what we say about kids today. Kids today have no self-confidence. They're a little entitled, but they have no self-confidence. Because entitlement says, I deserve this. You know what I mean? I'm owed this. Confidence says I can get it done. You know why kids have no self-confidence? Because we don't let them do anything themselves. We manage their little league, we manage their homework, we manage their chores, we manage their work, we manage this, and then here's what you have an adult that you're still managing. So what we were a believer in is like, just let the kids explore. Like they all did a little bit of gymnastics. My daughter, who's playing Division I volleyball at 5'4", she'll be a senior next year. We let her kind of do some like sampling of gymnastics. Mark, as soon as we were in there for 4 weeks, she's a freak. She's tough. She's brave. She's built for gymnastics. They were like, you got to get her in gymnastics. You got to go full go. I'm like, sorry, you're talking to the wrong dude. Like, I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? We use gymnastics as simply a sample and like a roadway to just make them better at whatever they choose. We didn't know what they were going to choose later. I mean, we kind of had an idea based on DNA.
Right.
Our kids all played elementary basketball. Here's why. Because we knew our kids probably weren't going to be basketball players. And so this is a great time to develop some of those skills that are unique from maybe what they're actually going to choose later and do full time. And so even Carson, my son, his first year of wrestling, he was still playing basketball.
Okay.
And so,
I'm sorry. It's interesting you say that because I remember I played football, ice hockey, and baseball. Yeah, and I played a lot of other sports, a lot of sampling. That's a great word. I'm going to be using that. But I remember before I think it was my sophomore or junior year in ice hockey, the head coach, who was a great coach, he said, "Wan, you've improved so much. Where have you been practicing? What have you been doing?" And I thought it was ironic. I wanted to say so bad. I said, I gave him a bit of a fib. I said, "I've been doing a few things." I did nothing. Only thing I did was play football, and football made me so much better at ice hockey, and ice hockey made me so much better at baseball. And it was amazing. Like I just got better.
Yeah.
And I wasn't great, but I could feel myself improving the little skill sets because I had been doing something that could be transferable.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. And that's where I think, we've robbed kids. And I had a great mentor, tell me this, sport falls under the umbrella of play. Play's life-giving. We all love to play.
Yeah.
Eventually, play gets boring. And so we put boundaries on it. It becomes a game. I always talk about like there were two guys shooting hoops like on probably a tree in a milk crate, and it got boring. So they looked over and saw a horse and said, "Hey, if I make the next shot and you miss, you get an H. We'll go to horse." You know what I mean? Like that actually happened out of boredom.
Yeah.
Sheer boredom.
Yeah.
At some point, play gets boring, so we make it a game, boundaries. At some point, a game gets boring, so we add the spice of competition. Here's the problem. When you add competition too early, sport becomes diseased. And what we've done in America is we got to teach them to be competitors. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, of course, every 7-year-old's going to cry when they strike out. It's not because they're a competitor. It's because they're an immature baby. Now, if you're 13 and you're still crying, you're not a competitor. You're a baby. I mean, we say that like parents. That is a false sense of being competitive. Competitive means I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and get 500 swings in, which a 7-year-old's not going to do, nor should they. And so again, and here's what's crazy in our world today, Mark. We've gotten boring even with the competition. So what did we add to it? Trick question.
You travel to other areas to get at other kids and compete with other kids. We just make circumstances harder. I don't know.
Here's the thing I say we've added. Competition's gotten boring for us, so here's what we added. We added gambling. We got to add that next level of like dopamine.
That's
you
right.
know what I mean? And it's crazy. It's crazy.
Dopamine nation, yeah. So there's so many ways I want to go with this, but so what's a better approach? You said sampling, maybe hold off, but what's a better approach for parents? Because I know that whole parenting conversation, I'm not suggesting people are doing it wrong, but let's be honest, most parents really care about their kids playing sports and having success. We all know that there's a piece of them that's vicariously living through their kids. But what do you suggest with parents? Because I want to ask you about parents. And I go to youth events and I see the way the parents behave. I immediately think, I don't know if I'm ever going to put my son in sports because
that's what
parents,
I was saying. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm like, dude, why don't we just get into like camping and mountain biking and stuff like that? Which I think you're going to see a trend towards some of that stuff in this next generation of parents because kids are like, why did we do all that? We missed out on all these other things in life. So here's what I'll say about parents. Number one, we call it a misapplication of love.
Okay.
Like if I see that mom or dad at the grocery store, they're normal. You see them at the 8-year-old Little League event, they lose it. Here's why. Because love is powerful. It will make us do dangerous things.
Wow.
And so if we can't bridle that love appropriately, then what happens is that love ends up being detrimental to the person we're actually showing it to. And so as a parent, I have to learn how to reapply that love. And so one of the things we teach at A Better Way, it was one of our first founding principles, was you can't get so consumed with what matters now that you lose sight of what matters most. And so one of the phrases I'll use all the time, and Randy's probably heard me say it all the time, listen, when our kids are walking on this journey, these moments that we're walking through are small scenes in a massive story that our kids are writing.
Okay.
All right, and we're riding shotgun with them for most of it. Here's what we don't want to do. We don't want to end the story over a scene. And so if you've ever done any long distance stuff, I love self-inflicted suffering. And so, if you've done any sort of like long races, there's one thing they can put beside your name at the end of the race that you don't want. And it's not a number, it's a series of letters. And what is
did not complete, did not finish.
DNF.
Yeah.
And so I believe as a parent, our number one objective should be, I just don't want my kid to DNF. I don't care if they're first or fifth. I don't control that. Here's what I do have a lot of control over, whether or not they finish.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is my own reactions and emotions on this journey. And so to me, that's, Randy's probably heard me say it 1,000 times. Hey man, this is a small scene in a big story. Don't mess up the story over this scene. That scene is so insignificant in the big scheme of things.
Okay.
But in that moment, Mark, it seems like it's life or death.
Oh yeah.
And that's where you have to have, if you've ever seen a picture, you see one picture and it shows you like this much. We call it panoramic parenting. Mm-hmm. And so when you zoom out, you see the whole picture. You see the whole gem. And so as a parent, I've got to look at those scenes, which are dialed in like a microscope, and I got to be able to do this. Mm-hmm. You know what? It's not that big a deal.
Right.
There's other kids involved. It's not worth ruining this relationship.
You okay. While we're on the subject, I remember some of the most special, call it important, wonderful life lessons, but defining moments for me, I'd say middle school, high school, collegiately, was when coaches sat me down or looked me in the eye, or coach got on the knee and had to give me an important message. The world's changed. I mean, it's a different place, man. It's So, how do you navigate those waters? My first question was actually not going to be about the athletes. It was going to be about, have you ever had to have a serious conversation with the parent?
Yeah. I mean, dude, we talk to our parents all the time. I mean, this year we were at an event, and listen, nothing bad, but I could see it escalating. So in between one of the events, I brought all the kids and parents over, and I said, hey, we have a rule that if your kid's not emotionally ready to compete, we're not going to let them compete again, because we want them to stay in the race. No need to hurry at 9 years old. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If you're not emotionally ready to parent in this environment, your kid's not going to compete.
Wow.
It's not worth it, man. It's not worth us doing something stupid. And listen, Heath Eslinger is not immune.
Right.
Mark, I call it the parent trap. It will suck you in.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the most incredible people say and do some of the most absurd things, and they are good people.
Yeah.
It goes back to that misapplication of love.
And I'm sure that some are receptive, some are not.
Yeah.
What do you do when they're not? Because they're like, hey, who are you? I pay you to coach my son, or don't talk to me that way. I know what I'm doing, right?
Well, here's the first thing. We don't sell it as they're pinning us to coach their kid.
Okay.
They're joining us and partnering together in developing an incredible human. We just happen to be using this avenue of wrestling.
Okay.
It's why our program has grown from about 26 to over 300 kids.
Wow.
Here's the other thing. Most everyone starts once the problem occurs. We start as soon as you enter our pipeline. We have a very strategic value system. We have a very strategic mission. We have a very strategic vision. We want parents to come to every practice. Like some people say, I don't want parents at practice. We tell them, come to every practice. I don't care. We have parents that now don't come to practice and they show up for the end of practice speech because they want to hear what we're saying to their kids.
I heard that. Yeah.
Because they will reinforce it.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to build relational capital. Here's one of the other reasons it's become very, like, I think, just a little bit toxic. Again, it goes back to the start date.
Okay.
Rewind 35, 40 years. Dude, first of all, kids weren't playing little league sports like they are now. Like, and parents weren't showing up for practice and going 4 days a week and investing money. Like, it literally was just an activity, you know. And then when you got to middle school and high school, it got more serious, and your kid was older. What's happening now is we're creating patterns. And so if I start my kid playing little league at 6 years old, I have to be there with them because they may not be able to go to the restroom by themselves if they have to do number 2.
Okay.
Well, to me, if you can't tie your shoes and go to the bathroom by yourself, you ain't going to practice because I'm not wiping your butt. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
we need to learn that at home, not at the ball field. And so what happens is we create these habits of, like, the parent and the child always being together. And so if I'm a parent and I've gone to watch every practice of my kid from 5 to 11 years old, guess what I do at 12 years old? I go to practice. And then at 13, I'm showing up for practice. And then they're going to high school and I want to go to practice. You know how many practices of my kids I've ever been to? None. Now, I coach wrestling now, but here's what I'm most proud of, and you can ask Randy this. Half the people in our club don't even know my kid's there. They don't even know he's my kid.
Wow.
Like, and the only way he's going to succeed in this is if that remains the case. Like, again, we're creating some routines that are unhealthy, and then we get mad about the routines. Like, well, I don't know why this parent's so involved.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you invited them in 10
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. A couple things. I definitely fall on the paranoid side, and I am worried about, I hear stories all the time, the trusted coach, and he did these horrible things, and I'm thinking, there's some of the not great people in this world.
Yeah.
I believe they're amazing people, and I believe there's some challenged people, and they use it for negative things. So I can understand that if that's the sole purpose, but I also understand it's creating some sort of codependency trap, right?
Yeah, that's what it creates. And here's what I will say. If you don't feel like you can drop your child off and leave them, one of two things is wrong. Either your child is too young and they just don't need to be, just go home and play with them in the yard. You can get 50 swings in if you're a baseball player in the yard in like 8 minutes.
Right.
No need to drive to the park. You can throw. They can get way more reps throwing with you in the yard than they are at that little league practice. So number one, if you don't feel comfortable leaving them, the first question you have to ask is this an age issue? And if so, back out, man. Just play at home. Number two, if you can't drop your child off because you don't feel like the environment is safe for your child, then you need to change organizations. And so what we try to communicate to parents is, number one, we always want you here. Number two, we want you to feel so safe and secure that you feel like you can always leave. And we just leave that door open for them. And so to me, you got to ask yourselves those questions. Now, here's what will happen a lot of times. Well, hey, this is a great environment for our kid and it's safe, but that one over here is more competitive. And I'm like, okay, pick your poison, man. Like, your kid's 8. Who cares? You don't need a good coach at 8 years old, really.
Okay. I can appreciate that. I mean, I by the way, there's a program down here. My buddy called me. I said, he called me. We're exchanging pleasantries, and I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm about to drop my son off at practice. And I said, just randomly, you don't watch practice. You say, we're not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
Because the parents have gotten so out of control down here, like South Florida football, and coach comes out, grabs the kid, walks him in. You are not allowed inside here, which I think
Yeah.
pros and cons, pros and cons.
No, there's pros and cons, and I get it. Here's what I would say.
Yeah.
Is the breakdown just the parent, or is the breakdown a lack of communication from the program to the parent to establish expectation standards, things like that? I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's both but I think we all have to own it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I will tell you. We have an organization of about 300 kids right now. We don't really have any issues, and we don't care where parents, we're glad to have them in there.
Yeah.
And again, not to say that we won't, we will, but that's part of the beauty of coaching is when you have a 10-year-old, you're not just coaching a kid, man. You're developing and you're running parallel with a family. And when someone's coaching my kid, I hope the same is true, that they are trying to reinforce the values that our family believes in. And that's why you got to pick your program, wisely.
Okay. So what came first? Better Way? You were a college wrestler, college wrestler of the year, college coach of the year, but then you left this platform. College coaching, I'm sure, is wildly competitive, and you left to start your own thing. What came first, that step or Better Way?
So I was in coaching, Mark, and I'm looking around at my own mistakes, and I'm hearing all of this these just like complaints about the sport world. And I can remember saying to a mentor of mine, I was like, listen, man, it's too train wrecked. What do we do? And he looked back at me and he says, why don't you start with you? And I freaking stopped in my tracks. Mm-hmm. I tell kids all the time, the greatest coach in your life is you. It ain't anybody else, because you're the only person that knows the truth. And so I looked myself in the mirror and said, okay, what are we going to do? And my business partner and I, Eric Phillips, who was an athletic director at the time, we said, hey, man, let's do something. And so we really started trying to educate parents. Then we realized, well, a lot of the parent issues is a lack of coaching skills. And I looked back at my own career. I got hired at 23 years old to be a head coach, and my AD told me, good luck. Mark, I was a loose cannon. Now, I had so much relational capital and we were successful. Listen, a lot of your ignorances get covered up. But dude, I look back at things I did and was like, I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, of course.
And so our heartbeat was, if sport can produce these incredible things we know it can produce, then why are we not preparing the people that are leading? When you look across our country today, there's a shortage of coaches. A lot of our coaches are no longer teachers. And we're not equipping them, and we're throwing them into an ecosystem that is chewing them up and spitting them out. And what we want to do is step into those spaces, and we want to help equip those coaches. So one, they're providing safer environments for kids, because our number one goal is to protect kids. Number two, they're providing more positive experience for kids, because our goal is we want to create well-rounded, capable young adults to live in the society that we're in. And then three, we want to make sure that coaches are staying in this industry longer. And if you don't have the tools to do a job and you suck at a job, you're not going to do the job very long, Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of our heartbeat of looking at our own lives and going, man, the coaches deserve some help. And we don't believe extracurricular activities are extra. We believe they're essential for the development of young people. And that could be football and wrestling, or it could be choir and band. I don't care what it is. Just get a kid with an adult that cares about them.
Okay. So you looked around, you said, why don't you start with you? You start this program, and did you have an intention, or you just have an idea? Well, you had the intention. You had an idea. I think quite often we don't know where it's going to go. But you said you go from 20-something to 300 kids. How long did that growth take, and what type of mistakes did you make along the way that you had to modify?
So two lanes here. One is our business, which is Better Way. We work with school systems all across the country. The other is where I volunteer,
Okay.
because that's the wrestling club where I met Randy. Uh, that's where we've gone from like 26 kids to 300 kids.
Okay.
Now, here's what I'll tell you. The principles we use at A Better Way to teach coaches, athletic directors, parents, and kids all across the country are the same principles we're using at the Midlothian Miners.
Okay.
And it's not rocket science, and here's what I'll tell you, it freaking works. And so, the company was founded out of this, you know, just burning desire to help the landscape of athletics be better, and that's all parts of the ecosystem: athletic directors, coach, parents, and kids. When we moved to Virginia, that's when, my son was in fifth grade and he was coming to me going, "Dad, you said I could wrestle when I turned like 10 years old. I'm almost 11." And the move kind of delayed it, which, I wasn't panicked, like, because the goal ain't 12. I tell parents all the time, if you want to win at 10, go hard at 9. But if you want to win at 10, you probably need to like do some self-reflection and ask yourself like what your real purpose is. And so, like, a lot of people are freaking out. I'm like, whether we start at 10 or 11, if he wants to be good, he'll figure it out because we can provide the environment. So we took him to the wrestling club that was closest to our house. And, I left that night going, we need to invest in this community. And we do it as all volunteers. No one gets paid. Like, we just invest in kids and families. And so that is almost like the little hobby, passion project. Okay. But our company, what we want to do is we want to step into school systems all across the country, and we want to make sure that anytime a district chooses to put a coach in front of children, that they have the tools they need to be successful.
Okay.
Now, if they choose not to use those tools, that's on them. But right now, Mark, what we're doing, and part of it is desperation. If you have a heartbeat, we are willing to put you in front of kids because we're so desperate for coaches. And just because you can pass a background check and you're not a criminal doesn't mean you're ready to lead 14 and 15-year-old young men and women and their parents on this journey we call sport. And so we believe that there's an administrative obligation that school systems should have in equipping those individuals.
So let's stop there for a second. You said, like, if you have a heartbeat and they put you in front of kids, you're okay to coach. Well, I know you didn't say that, but that's what it feels like.
That's what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So why is that? Like, sometimes, I'll give you an example. Like, my brother, sometimes, like, every once in a while, he would complain about a coach or something, and I said, "Dude, you know what that coach makes? Like, that's."
Yeah.
By the way, if he makes, he's usually,
Yeah.
So it's like, and I don't see anyone else stepping up to take his job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what are the reasons? Is that the primary reason? You don't see a lot of coaches stepping up. I just recently saw something where there were coaches, they named 8 former NFL guys who coach high school football. And a few of them coach the same team, which sounds unfair, but they love it, right? So what are the reasons where that people aren't stepping up in coaching, qualified people?
So I think it's a couple of things. Number one, I think just the demands on a coach today are off the charts, man. Listen, the middle school coach has the same expectations that people have for Nick Saban, man. If you don't win right now and everything's not perfect, and like you said, I'm like, dude, Nick Saban's making $8 million a year. This guy's making $800 a year. Yeah. So I think part of it is the demands. There is no more, even when we talk about like multi-sport and stuff. If you were a high school basketball coach today, Mark, if you were a high school head basketball coach, you were probably an assistant football coach and the freshman baseball coach. So because coaches coach multiple sports, kids played multiple sports.
Yeah.
Well, in today's culture, if you're a high school basketball coach at a competitive high school and you're not coaching year-round, here's what I'm going to promise you. You're getting fired. You're getting fired.
You're going to say that because it's going to be very hard for them to win, to have buy-in by the kids?
Even if it's not hard to, even if it's not creating a better outcome, the perception from people is you're not working hard enough to give us the best chance. You may coach 1 year, year round, and go 20-15. You may go coach another sport and the next year go 20-15, but perception and comparison is going to cause people to go into such an upheaval that it's going to run you out of that district. And so, number one, I think it's demand. You know, number two, I do think some of it is just financially. You know, like it's hard to give that much time for that little pay in the world that we live in today. Used to, it was a little bit easier to manage. Number three, we don't have as many people going into education. About 50% of our coaches across the educationally based landscape today are not teachers. When I was in high school, every coach I had was a teacher. You know, you saw them every day in the building.
Right.
The majority of our kids right now, mine included, will play for a coach that does not work in the building as an educator. It's why it's even more important for us to develop coaches, because they're not even educators anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big part of it.
Go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's a huge part of it. And then I just think we have a huge retention issue in the education world today. I just think there's a lot of turnover and things like that. But again, I think these are all I don't even want to call them problems. I don't like the word problems. These are just challenges that I think we have to be honest about and figure out some ways to overcome them. I also think I think we've made, because there's so many sport opportunities today. So number one, when I look back at my high school career in the mid-90s, we probably had like 8-9 sports. You look at a high school today, Mark, they probably have 20 sports. Well, there's a thing we call supply and demand that is true in every area of life, you know? And so one, I think just the supply of coaches, let's just say it hasn't even shrunk, but the demand has grown. Well, guess what? You have a shortfall.
Right.
I think the same is true with officials. We complain there's no officials anymore. I'm like, dude, we play 50,000 more games than we did 30 years ago because you have so many little leagues and travel leagues and all this stupid crap, you know? And so to me, some of it is like a supply and demand issue where we've created so much and we've almost outpaced like our production to get them ready. The other thing I think that is a shortage of coaches and officials is, again, I think part of the danger is when you start early, because it becomes all about little Marky and, you know, little Mark's got to get a scholarship and all this is used to sport there was this beautiful part of sport that was about being a part of a team and giving back to a community and representing your school. So you had a lot of people that were in that pipeline that they wouldn't go on to be elite athletes, because most of us aren't. But here's what they would do. They would say, hey, man, I'm going to go be an umpire, and I'm going to give back to baseball because I love baseball, and my coach made a difference in me. Well, nowadays, when you get out of sport, you don't give back jack or squat because it was all about you.
Yeah.
And as soon as it ain't about you, like, why would you give anything? And so I think we've just foundationally lost some of the, like, incredible, beautiful principles that are involved in sport. And I don't think anyone's done it on purpose. I think that gravitational pull got us, and then it just kept pulling us further and further away. Here's what I want to do. I want to bring it back.
Yeah. I find that interesting because are you on social media?
I am, not a ton, but I am.
Yeah. When people talk about athletes, they talk about, it's very unique because, like, you know, I'm 49 years old. I guess I'm old school now, but I think about who they idolize. And everyone's entitled to their opinion and what they value. But I'll give you an example. I was having a conversation. There's one guy on our team that's an amazing guy, loves sports, and we always talk basketball. And he says, there's a whole Jordan LeBron thing. And I say, do you understand that Michael Jordan played in every single game? I just start there.
Yeah.
And number one, on that note, there's no value in it. Like, that means nothing. You would say you're better off not playing in every game, and which it doesn't mean it's good or bad or right or wrong. It just highlights what people value.
Yes, it highlights what we value. Yeah.
Yes. And then we were talking about big men in basketball in the
Yeah.
NBA. I said, have you ever heard of David Robinson or Tim Duncan? And he said, no. I said, do
Hmm.
you know that Tim Duncan is one of the greatest big men that ever played in the NBA? And why is he not popular? Because he's introverted. He doesn't draw attention to himself. He's a team guy.
Hmm.
And this guy didn't even know who he was.
Yeah.
And the guy's probably
Yeah.
32 years old.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
interesting that because what my point is, because the values and the appreciation for things have changed so drastically, then you know what? It's not about team. It's about what can I get? What kind of attention can I get? And why would I invest in a team when, I don't know them that well? And
Yeah.
I think everyone's just trying to take this, the book Givers and Takers, Adam Grant. Like
Mhm.
it's a non-starter because there's not a lot of teaching around it. I believe I had some really extraordinary high school and college coaches that they could care less. They would never say this, but they could care less if you won. They cared about developing young men. And
Yeah.
ironically, we ended up winning, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So I got a theory I want to share with you because you'll
please,
get a
please,
kick out.
please. Yeah.
I have no research to back this up. All right. This is a Heath like uh, just thought that he had probably 15 years ago. People ask me, when did it go south? All
I
right.
can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait.
When did the sport world go south? All right. 1976. All right. I wasn't even born.
Okay, that's my birth year.
So 1976. Here's why I say 1976. And I'm going to hold on a second. I'm going to look this up. Hold on. I'm going to make sure I'm correct here. Oh no, 1983.
Okay.
All right. I mean, really, it was 70s. It was kind of like late 70s or early 80s. All right. And there's a common little sound that we began to hear, and I think it was the beginning of the downfall, and it was not intentional. And here's the beginning of the sound. You ready?
Yeah.
Da 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 da.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean,
Because Mark,
yeah,
Mark, here's what happened. Before that time, the only way you saw what elite level athletes looked like was probably like to go to a game. And listen, I've been around some elite level athletes. When I walk into a room with elite level football players, here's what I realize very quickly. I'm not an elite level football player. These people, these people look different than me. What happened was when Sports Center and Top 10 and all this came out, it became all about the highlight. And you will have kids today that don't even watch baseball games. All they do is watch baseball highlights. They don't watch football games. They watch football highlights. And so what we have is we have kids that have a less IQ for the total game because we've made it all about the highlight. Well, if it's all about the highlight, what do I want to be about? I want to be about the highlight. And so here's what we also don't show on SportsCenter. We only show those who make it. We don't show the carnage from those who didn't. And so a parent begins to have this false reality, like, well, my kid's really good. I'm like, listen, if you stood your kid beside that college basketball player, your kid doesn't even look like they belong in the room. They look like they belong fixing the water bottles. And that doesn't mean, listen, I have a daughter that's 5'4" playing Division I volleyball. But you just have a dose of reality that's important. And so I always go back to, I really think part of the pendulum was da 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 da.
Oh man, that's a
Yeah.
awesome perspective.
Zero research to back it up.
But no, but I
Yeah.
I think I think there's levels to it. So that was the start of it. One of the reasons I wanted to play football, give it a shot, was because all the men in my family at every family gathering would sit around this like 16-inch TV, and there's 20 guys like sitting 5 inches away from the TV, and it was everything to them. I just didn't understand why it was so important.
Yeah.
But I knew that it held their attention. They respected the guys on that screen, and to them, they were like superheroes. So, but I think there are levels to it. And what I mean is, and I talked about this yesterday, with social media, people don't want to see the training, the workout, the years of drudgery. As you said, the self. I remember when I did a marathon on a rowing machine. It took me like 2 hours and like 45 minutes. My back and butt hurt so bad.
Yes.
And I was thinking, I had no idea it was that painful, but no one cared. They just wanted to see my time.
Yes.
Right. And I'm thinking like the time meant nothing. The whole experience was everything. And then with social media, I know people who are in the fitness world who post highlights or their shirt off or their abs that they don't even get via hard work. They
Yeah, I
get
know.
because they're putting things in their body.
Yeah.
And people saying, I could care less about the work, which to me, that's when, to your point, when it went sideways, where you don't understand the benefit is not the abs, it's the work.
Yes.
The work is making you who you are. But no one
Yeah.
wants to take a second and process that.
Yeah. And so one of the rules we had in our house is we don't post that stuff. Even when my girls were on the recruiting journey, we only made one post. It was where we were committing to go to school.
Oh, right.
Like, we didn't post everywhere we went. We didn't post every letter we got because half the letters that they didn't want us. They're just sending it to every girl that was in that tournament. Like,
Checking boxes, yeah.
and so like, but again, you got to create some boundaries on the front end, and not everyone's boundaries need to be the same, but you need to decide what they are, because boundaries are here to liberate us, not limit us. And if you don't have a boundary and you don't have a guardrail, you're going to go off the cliff. Hey, I sent this to Randy, and I got a few more minutes and I'll have to row, but
Okay.
This was actually from like 12 years ago, but it's a guy that wrote an article just on, youth sports. And he says, in most communities, if the parent chooses not to enroll a child in travel sports, the parent is choosing to non-mainstream their kid. If you don't sacrifice weekday evenings, weekends, everything, you may be denying them a high school experience. And then he goes on to say, kids aren't just picking one sport at the expense of, they're not picking one sport at the expense of other sports. In today's world, they're picking one sport at the expense of any other kind of life. There's no camping, no s'mores, nothing. And then here's the last sentence. It says, the road to professional contracts in all sports. And here's what we don't talk about, because we only sell the good, because the good makes us feel good. The road to professional contracts in all sports, or Division I or college scholarships, let's even go there, I love this term, man, is littered with the teenage bodies that made the same sacrifices but fell short and are now largely unprepared for an adult life apart from sport. Our society, this is 12 years ago, is about to experience its first full generation of these teenagers entering the workforce or not. Because kids today, listen, if you want to be good at sport today, you think you can have a summer job? Dude, the demands that are placed on you. Now, we've chosen to do so. Like, we've said, hey, you got to have some balance here, because like,
First of all, send me that article. I know you got like, I think 2 minutes here, but I did want to ask you this, and I could talk to you for 4 hours. So I respect the boundary, and I want to be respectful of your time. But really, thank you for doing this. Last couple questions that could be answered, I think, quickly.
And we can do another, man.
Yeah,
I love
that. We really should. We will, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
What makes a great athlete or wrestler in general? Like a bucket of things, and then if you had to pick one thing that would be essential based off your experience.
Oh, man.
I know.
So,
I know.
I'm gonna give you some weird things.
Okay.
We always say character. I think patience is big. Like, you got to be patient, man. Like, we live in a world. I always use the illustration of like when I was a kid, my mom, we would go pick out our summer clothes, and my mom would take them to the back of the store and give them to a lady. And then over the course of the summer, that she would make payments. And then before school started, we would get our clothes. It was called layaway. And so what you did is you made deposits on what you wanted to buy, but it wasn't yours until you paid for it. Well, now today, we buy clothes on a credit card that we don't even have the money for, and we get them immediately. And so what's true in one world is true in another world. We want success immediately because we see it. You know what I mean? Like we see success and we go, I want that immediately. That doesn't exist. So patience is big. I would say the other thing, I'm going to use this word, and it's probably my favorite word. And people ask me, like, deep down, what do you want to be, Heath? And I say, I want to be a pharmacist of hope.
Nice.
Because I believe this: hope is the most needed prescription in the world today, because despair is the most dangerous disease. And we live in a society today that says, kids aren't resilient, kids aren't tough. Here's where toughness and resilience is built. It's built through hope. Because here's Dallas Willard defined hope this way. He said, hope is the joyous anticipation of good. And the function of hope is to keep my present circumstance open to a future possibility. And so why can I run a marathon? Because I know and I hope at mile 20 that I'm going to get to mile 26.2.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here's what's unfortunate in our world today. We're living in a world that's lost hope, man.
Yeah.
And it's why we're seeing families fall apart. It's why we're seeing parents give up on kids that are wayward. It's why we see kids quit sports when they get benched. Yeah. Listen, if my hope tank is full and I get benched, here's what I say. Just put me back in.
Mm-hmm.
I'll earn it back. Yeah. If my hope tank isn't full, then what happens is I get benched and I quit because I don't think I'll ever be the starter. Here's where hope is built, though. The ingredient for hope is struggle. And we say a lot of times in our world today, we got to teach kids to fail. I'm like, I'm not teaching my kids to fail. I'm trying to teach them to succeed. Here's what I'm going to teach them how to do. I'm going to teach them how to struggle. Because struggle is failure prevention. Failure is not me striking out or getting my butt kicked in a wrestling mat. Failure is if I get my butt kicked and I quit because I have no hope. And so we got to teach kids to struggle. But the danger is this, Mark, is struggle is age appropriate. So a 7-year-old struggle has a 7-year-old consequence. Mm-hmm. And when I rob my child of that 7-year-old opportunity, then they get to 8 and I rob them again. Then they get to 9 and I rob them again. And then they get to 17 and they still have a 6-year-old hope tank, and the crap hits the fan and they bow out. And so to me, I think the greatest attribute is an athlete that's just got so much hope. They're almost too stupid to not think they're not going to make it. Like they're just like, dude, I'm going to figure it out somehow.
Right.
You show, and it's not just true with athletes. It's the entrepreneur. It's the parent. Like, yeah, man, it stinks right now. My kid's struggling, but we're going to figure this out. Like, I'm not going to lose hope in them. So to me, I would say maybe hope and patience are the two biggest things. All the other stuff is just freaking Instagram click words. Oh, you got to be tough, whatever. Well, tough's relative. Like, I can kick your butt, but there's 20 guys that can kick mine. Like, I don't know.
That's right.
Those are the two words I would say.
That is very helpful, very informative. This whole thing has been amazing. Thank you for making time. As I said before, we'll do another one because we didn't even get into half the coaching stuff.
I know we did.
But everything you said I thought was spot on. I appreciate your perspective. I tend to agree with all of it, and that's rare. But thank you so much. Yeah. Where can they find our listeners who want to learn more about Better Way Athletics or learn more about you? Where can they find you or Better Way?
Well, they can go to abw.io.com, for any, school administrator out there. We would love to, partner with your school to have an impact. I'm a believer in educationally based athletics. My kids always knew we'll always choose our school over our club or travel team, like always. It's not even an option in our household. I believe community-based sports are the greatest thing ever. Kirk Cousins said it best. Of all the places he's played, none compare to a high school Friday night football game, like playing your friends from the crosstown team. Like, dude, I get chill bumps thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so, that's it. There's, following me, that's pretty boring. But, I would just say to all the coaches and parents out there, like, our kids deserve our best. Zoom out. Let's work hard to make sure we're providing environments where they get the things they need and not just the stuff we hope they can accomplish one day.
Thank you for that. Last message for a young person who's trying to get better at a sport or find their way. What would you tell them?
Choose your friends wisely.
Choose your friends wisely?
I think the most difficult thing for a kid today is we let our friends choose us. And I think we got to be a little bit more strategic of helping our kids, not doing it for them, but helping them understand how they can choose their people. And that doesn't mean we're ostracizing anyone else, but it means, hey, if I want to be excellent in this area, I'm going to identify those qualities and surround myself with those type of people. And so I just think, choose your people wisely, your coaches, your friends,
Okay.
changes the game.
Listen, I remember Dabo Sweeney. You hang out with dogs, you get fleas. Be careful.
Yeah, that's no doubt, man. Be careful. Yeah.
Keith, thank you so
sometimes
much, man. You're the best. Appreciate you
All
making
right.
time, and everything Randy said was spot on. I
Well,
hope to see you practice someday. I'm not going to compete.
hey, let's go. Get up here, man. You got to get up here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got to. I really
All
got
right.
to. But you're the best. Have an amazing weekend. Best to your family, and thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.